Let me ask you something real. Who's more likely to give you a second chance when you mess up in dating? Men or women? You might think it's about gender, but it's deeper than that. It's about emotional investment, perceived value, and what someone thinks they stand to gain or lose by letting you back in. The truth is, men and women both offer second chances, but for very different reasons. And if you don't understand what those reasons are, you'll keep failing in situations where you could have recovered. This speech isn't just about who's more forgiving. It's about understanding the psychology behind second chances and how you can use that knowledge to build real, lasting attraction. Let's break down 6 key insights that every man needs to understand if he wants to navigate dating like a pro. When a woman gives you a second chance, it's rarely because you said the right words or sent the perfect message. It's because she sees something different in you. Growth, real, noticeable change. Women are highly tuned in to emotional patterns and behavior. The first time around, you were inconsistent, unavailable, immature, or lacked emotional awareness. No apology in the world will be enough unless your actions clearly show you've evolved. Growth, to her, isn't about promises, it's about evidence. This is why many men fail when they try to get another shot. They rely on guilt, nostalgia, or empty reassurances. They write long texts explaining how much they've changed, yet they still act like the same man who disappointed her before. She's not interested in words anymore. She's observing what you're doing differently. Are you showing more consistency? Are you emotionally grounded? Are you more intentional with your time and effort? If the answer is no, then there's no reason for her to open the door again. When a woman gives a second chance, she's not doing it blindly. She's testing to see if this new version of you is real or just a temporary act. That's why the second time around often feels more intense, because her guard is up. She doesn't want to repeat a cycle. So, if you want that second shot to count, don't show her what you think she wants to see. Show her that you've actually worked on yourself, whether or not she comes back. Growth isn't about proving her wrong. It's about becoming the kind of man who wouldn't make the same mistake twice. That's what earns trust back. Not charm, not apologies, but consistent, undeniable proof that you're not the man you were. You're the man you're meant to become. When men offer second chances, it's often driven more by emotional attachment than clear thinking. Once a man forms a strong emotional bond with someone, especially if there's physical intimacy involved, he becomes deeply invested. That connection can cloud his judgment, making it easier for him to ignore red flags, overlook toxic patterns, or justify behavior he wouldn't accept from anyone else. He's not always forgiving because the situation is healthy or logical. He's forgiving because he doesn't want to lose that comfort, that closeness, or that feeling of being wanted. This kind of second chance isn't rooted in growth or accountability. It's rooted in fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear of never finding that connection again. So even when he knows deep down that things aren't right, he'll often let someone back in because he's hoping things will magically be different. He convinces himself that time apart has changed everything, when in reality, neither person has grown in a meaningful way. This is where men tend to fall into emotional loops, repeating the same cycles with the same woman, each time thinking, maybe this time it'll be different, but it rarely is. The truth is, unless both people grow independently and intentionally, a second chance is just a repeat of the first mistake. For a man to truly benefit from giving someone a second chance, he has to step back and ask himself, am I doing this because I've seen genuine change? Or am I doing this because I'm afraid to let go? If the answer leans toward fear, then a second chance isn't an opportunity, it's a trap. Emotional attachment can be powerful, but if it's not guided by wisdom, it leads to settling for less than you deserve. Second chances should be earned, not handed out just because you missed the feeling. A second chance in dating is never truly a clean slate. It might look like a fresh start, feel like one, and even sound like one when someone says, "Let's try again." But beneath the surface, it's always a quiet test. The person who's given the second chance is watching more closely than ever. They're observing how you speak, how you act, how you handle pressure, okay? And how different or similar you really are compared to before. There's a quiet tension in every interaction, even if no one mentions it directly. That's why many people fail during the second attempt. They treat it like everything's been erased, like the past no longer matters. They go back to old habits or become too comfortable too quickly, thinking forgiveness equals forgetting. But the truth is, most people never really forget. Carry the memory of how they felt the last time you disappointed them. And during the second round, they're mentally collecting data, looking for any signs that the same cycle is about to repeat. This is why awareness and intentionality are so important. You're not just rebuilding a connection. You're being evaluated silently and consistently. Every little action either builds back trust or chips away at the possibility of lasting reconciliation. The second chance isn't a reward. It's an opportunity to prove you've learned, grown, and changed. It's crucial not to mistake this opportunity for casual comfort. The pressure is higher, the expectations are stronger, and the margin for error is much smaller. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be present, consistent, and real. Someone lets you back into their life. Respect that by showing up better, not just saying you will. Because the second chance isn't just about getting another shot. It's about showing that you're someone worth believing in again. When it comes to second chances, low-value behavior is often the silent killer. It doesn't matter how sincere your apology is or how much you say you've changed if your actions scream insecurity, neediness, or desperation. The door you're trying to reopen will close even tighter. Many people don't realize how much damage they do by trying too hard to fix things in the wrong way. They beg, they over-explain, they bombard the other person with emotional texts or social media posts, thinking that effort equals redemption. But in reality, it has the opposite effect. When you come across as emotionally unstable or overly eager to win someone back, you don't project growth, you project fear. You signal that you haven't developed inner strength, that your world still revolves around their approval, and that you're not standing on solid ground. This lowers your perceived value and triggers emotional resistance. Instead of appearing as someone worth reconnecting with, you look like someone who's chasing closure or validation more than genuine reconnection. People, especially those who have felt hurt or disappointed by you, need to see emotional self-control, not emotional chaos. If you truly want a second chance, the most powerful thing you can do is center yourself. Show that you've learned, not just through your words, but through quiet strength. Be grounded, calm, and detached from the outcome. That doesn't mean you don't care. It means you respect yourself enough not to grovel. Remember, people don't respond to pressure. They respond to presence. If your behavior after the breakup is marked by low self-worth, it only confirms why things ended in the first place. But when you hold your value, move with clarity, and let your growth speak for itself, you create space for curiosity, not closure. And that's where real second chances are born. The ability to walk away is one of the most underrated sources of power in dating, especially when it comes to second chances. Most people think that sticking around, constantly reaching out, or proving your worth will somehow make the other person see your value. But the truth is, when you make yourself too available, especially after a breakup or major setback, you'll become easy to overlook. Desperation, no matter how subtle, lowers attraction. It tells the other person that your sense of worth is tied to their approval, and that energy is never attractive. Walking away doesn't mean slamming the door with drama or bitterness. It means stepping back with dignity, letting go of the outcome, and focusing on becoming a better version of yourself, not for them, but for you. It's about showing that you have options, standards, and most importantly, self-respect. Paradoxically, this is often when people start to notice your value again. When they see that you're not chasing, not begging, not pleading, that's when curiosity kicks in. Why aren't they fighting for me? They wonder, okay? And that question can become the seed of renewed interest. People are drawn to those who value themselves. If you're too afraid to walk away, it means you've put them on a pedestal. And once someone senses that imbalance, they subconsciously begin to devalue you. But when you show that you're willing to lose them rather than lose yourself, you flip the dynamic. You stop being the person trying to win them back, and you become the person they have to earn access to again. The strength to walk away isn't about giving up. It's about leveling up. It proves that you're not dependent. You're deliberate. And that shift in energy speaks louder than any text or apology ever could. Second chances are never handed out. Just because you asked for them, they're earned through action, not access. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that just being around, staying in contact, or keeping the door open is enough to get someone back. They believe that familiarity will somehow rekindle attraction. But in reality, being present without purpose doesn't build interest, it breeds indifference. If nothing about you has changed, why would someone expect a different outcome? What truly earns a second chance is a visible transformation. When someone sees that you've been working on yourself, not for them, but for your own growth, it creates curiosity. Maybe you've become more emotionally grounded. Maybe you're taking care of your body, career, or mindset. Maybe you're finally leading your life with confidence and direction instead of drifting. These are the things that make someone stop and reconsider. They don't want to come back to the same version of youth. They want to feel like they'd be getting something new, something stronger, someone they can respect. Consistency is key. You can't fake real progress. You're saying all the right things, but your energy, habits, and patterns remain the same. People will notice and they'll pull away. The second chance isn't about showing up and asking for forgiveness. It's about showing up as a man who doesn't need it. That's what's attractive. That's what reopens doors. Don't focus on convincing someone to let you back in. Focus on becoming the kind of man they regret walking away from. When your growth is undeniable, when your presence feels different, you won't have to beg for a second chance. You'll become someone they don't want to lose again, not because you pressured them, but because you proved your value through who you've become. So, do men or women offer more second chances? That's not the real question. The real question is, when life gives you that second shot, are you the same man who blew the first one? Or the version she never thought you'd become?